Nikolai Thompson stepped into the bustling hallways of Oak Ridge High School on his first day, the small rainbow pin on his lapel glinting under the fluorescent lights like a beacon of quiet defiance. Before he could even introduce himself to his homeroom class, a group of senior boys in the back row snickered loudly, one of them pointing and whispering just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Look at the new guy's fairy badge. Guess we're getting diversity training whether we want it or not." The room erupted in laughter, and Nikolai felt his cheeks burn. But he straightened his spine, knowing this was just the beginning of the storm he'd walked into in this conservative Midwestern town. Oak Ridge, Illinois, was the kind of place where Friday night football games were sacred, church potlucks defined community, and anything that deviated from the norm was met with suspicion or outright hostility. Nikolai had moved here from Chicago, seeking a fresh start after a painful breakup, drawn by the promise of a quieter life and a teaching position in English literature. He was 32, with a sharp mind for poetry and a heart that had always beaten a little differently. The rainbow pin wasn't new. He'd worn it for years as a subtle nod to his identity, a way to honor the part of himself he'd fought hard to accept. But in Oak Ridge, it might as well have been a neon sign. By lunchtime, the whispers had spread. In the staff lounge, Mrs. Harlan, the veteran history teacher with her pearl necklace and judgmental gaze, leaned over to the principal, Mr. Reynolds, and muttered, "I hope he's not planning to push any agendas on our kids. We have enough issues without that." Mr. Reynolds, a burly man in his 50s who prided himself on keeping the peace, nodded uncomfortably but said nothing. Nikolai overheard it all as he grabbed a coffee, his hand trembling slightly. He wasn't here to push anything. He was here to teach Shakespeare and foster critical thinking. But the pin had marked him. That afternoon, during his sophomore class, a girl named Sarah raised her hand innocently enough. "Mr. Thompson, what's that pin for? Is it like, for gay people?" The question hung in the air, and before Nikolai could respond thoughtfully, a boy named Jake chimed in, "Yeah, are you one of them? My dad says people like that shouldn't be around kids." The class tittered nervously, and Nikolai felt a knot twist in his stomach. He chose his words carefully. "The pin represents support for the LGBTQ community, Sarah. It's about equality and acceptance. And yes, I am gay, but that doesn't change how I'll teach this class." The room fell silent, then exploded into murmurs. Jake smirked, pulling out his phone under the desk to text his friends. Word traveled fast in Oak Ridge. By evening, Nikolai's phone buzzed with an anonymous message. "Faggots don't belong here. Take your pin and leave." He deleted it, but the weight settled in his chest. He hadn't told anyone about his other life, the one where he wasn't just a teacher scraping by on a modest salary. Back in Chicago, Nikolai had inherited a substantial fortune from his late parents, tech entrepreneurs who'd built an empire before their untimely death in a car accident. He'd funneled much of it into an anonymous education fund, one that had quietly bailed out struggling schools across the Midwest. Oak Ridge High had been on the brink of closure 2 years ago due to budget cuts and declining enrollment. Nikolai's fund had provided the $1 million grant that kept the doors open, saving jobs and programs. But he'd insisted on anonymity. He didn't want gratitude or leverage. He just wanted to make a difference. As the days turned into weeks, the humiliation escalated. Students left notes on his desk. "Rainbow freak." Parents complained at PTA meetings, demanding to know why a man like him was influencing their children. One father, Mr. Ellis, whose son was in Nikolai's class, stood up red-faced. "This is indoctrination. My boy comes home talking about tolerance. We don't need that liberal nonsense here." The crowd murmured agreement, and Principal Reynolds promised to monitor the situation. Nikolai sat in the back, invisible, his pin hidden under his jacket that night. He felt isolated, questioning his choice to come here. Then, during a staff meeting, he met Ethan Carter. Ethan was the school's guidance counselor, 35, with kind hazel eyes and a quiet strength that came from years of helping troubled teens. He was straight, or so everyone assumed, but there was something in the way he smiled at Nikolai, a warmth that cut through the chill. "Don't let them get to you," Ethan whispered as they filed out. "This town chews up anyone different, but you'll find allies." Nikolai nodded, grateful for the first kind word in weeks. Little did he know, Ethan carried his own secrets, buried deep under layers of expectation. The conflicts brewed like a storm. Nikolai's lessons on diverse literature, introducing authors like James Baldwin, sparked backlash. "Why are we reading this gay stuff?" Jake complained loudly one day. Nikolai explained the literary value, but it fell on deaf ears. At home, Nikolai poured his frustrations into emails to the fund's board, ensuring Oak Ridge's grants continued despite the personal toll. He wondered if revealing his role would change anything, but pride and fear kept him silent. One evening, after a particularly rough day, Nikolai bumped into Ethan at the local diner. They shared a booth, talking about everything from favorite books to the town's stifling atmosphere. "I've lived here my whole life," Ethan admitted. "It's hard to breathe sometimes." Nikolai felt a spark, an unexpected connection. Was it just friendship or something more? He pushed the thought away. Ethan was probably straight, and Nikolai couldn't afford complications. But as they parted, Ethan's hand lingered on Nikolai's shoulder, sending a shiver down his spine. The social pressures mounted. Rumors spread that Nikolai was recruiting students, absurd claims that led to a formal warning from Reynolds. "Tone it down with the pin and the topics," he said gruffly. Nikolai complied outwardly, but inside, rage simmered. He chose to stay to fight quietly through education. Little by little, a few students warmed to him, Sarah, for one, who confided her own questions about identity. But the majority followed the crowd, their taunts a daily ritual. As winter approached, Nikolai's resolve hardened. He owned the power to pull the fund's support, but that would punish the innocent. Instead, he focused on survival, unaware that Ethan's own internal conflict was about to intertwine with his. Ethan had always known he was bisexual, but in Oak Ridge, he'd hidden it, dating women to fit in. Meeting Nikolai stirred feelings he'd suppressed, forcing him to confront his choices. Their friendship deepened, late-night talks turning intimate, emotions bubbling under the surface. The snow blanketed Oak Ridge like a deceptive shroud, hiding the town's sharp edges under soft white. Nikolai trudged to school, his breath fogging the air, the rainbow pin defiantly back on his lapel after a weekend of reflection. But the humiliation didn't pause for the weather. That morning, a crudely drawn caricature appeared on the faculty bulletin board. A stick figure with a rainbow cape, labeled Mr. Thompson's Super Gay Adventures. Laughter echoed from the lounge as Nikolai tore it down, his hands shaking with fury. Ethan found him in the empty classroom later, staring out the window. "Who did this?" Ethan asked, his voice laced with anger. Nikolai shrugged. "Does it matter? It's the whole town." They sat together, the silence comfortable yet charged. Ethan shared his own story. Growing up in Oak Ridge, the pressure to be the all-American boy, playing football, dating the cheerleader. "I never fit perfectly," he confessed. "Always felt like I was acting." Nikolai listened, his heart aching with recognition. For the first time, he felt seen. Their bond grew amid the chaos. They started meeting outside school, coffee runs, walks in the park where bare trees whispered secrets. Ethan opened up about his divorce 2 years ago, how his ex-wife had sensed his divided heart. "I loved her, but something was missing," he said one night over pizza at Nikolai's small apartment. Nikolai nodded, sharing his Chicago breakup, the ex who couldn't handle commitment. As the evening wore on, their knees touched under the table, a spark igniting. Ethan hesitated, then pulled away. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he whispered. Nikolai understood. The town would destroy them both. Meanwhile, the conflicts intensified. At a school board meeting, parents rallied against Nikolai. Mr. Ellis led the charge. "He's wearing that pin like a badge of honor, but it's a distraction. Our kids need role models, not activists." Cheers erupted, and Nikolai, present as a staff member, felt eyes boring into him. He stood to speak, voice steady. "I'm here to teach, not convert. The pin is part of who I am, just like your crosses or wedding rings." Murmurs turned hostile, and Reynolds adjourned quickly. Later, anonymous threats escalated. Slashed tires on Nikolai's car, graffiti on his door, leave or else. Ethan became his anchor. One stormy night, as thunder rattled the windows, Ethan showed up at Nikolai's place soaked. "I can't pretend anymore," he said, stepping close. Their first kiss was tentative, born of shared pain and longing. It wasn't passion-fueled. It was a quiet affirmation, two souls finding solace. But guilt followed. Ethan worried about his job, his reputation. "If they find out," he trailed off. Nikolai held him. "We'll face it together." Social rifts deepened. Students polarized, some, like Sarah, defended Nikolai in class, earning her own bullying. "You're brave, Mr. T," she said. Others, led by Jake, organized a traditional values petition, demanding Nikolai's removal. The principal caved partially, assigning Nikolai to remedial classes, isolating him. Nikolai's emotions churned. Anger at the injustice, fear for his safety, but also a budding love that made it bearable. Unbeknownst to all, the school's finances teetered again. Enrollment dipped due to the controversies, and budgets strained. Reynolds confided in staff about potential cuts, oblivious that Nikolai's fund was the lifeline. Nikolai debated revealing it, but timing mattered. He chose patience, focusing on Ethan. Their relationship blossomed in secret, stolen moments, whispered promises. Ethan grappled with his identity, coming out to himself fully for the first time. "You've changed everything," he told Nikolai. But controversy brewed. Rumors of their closeness leaked when a student spotted them together at the diner. Whispers turned to accusations. The counselor's in on it now. Ethan's ex-wife, still in town, fueled the fire with bitter comments. At a tense faculty dinner, Mrs. Harlan confronted them. "This isn't San Francisco. Keep your personal lives private." Ethan defended Nikolai, his voice firm. "Personal lives? Like your church group meetings during lunch." The room tensed, alliances fracturing. Nikolai's choices weighed heavy. Pull the fund and watch the school crumble, proving their bigotry right? Or endure, hoping for change? He confided in Ethan about the fund one night, swearing him to secrecy. Ethan's eyes widened. "You could end this anytime." Nikolai shook his head. "That's not why I did it. I wanted to help, not control." Their love deepened, a refuge amid turmoil. As spring thawed the snow, tensions peaked. A student-led protest against immoral influences drew media attention, painting Oak Ridge as a battleground for values. Nikolai became the symbol, his pin the flashpoint. Ethan stood by him, their relationship tested by public scrutiny. One evening, after a heated argument with Reynolds, Ethan admitted, "I'm scared, but I choose you." Nikolai pulled him close, emotions raw. The path ahead was uncertain, but their connection felt unbreakable. Spring brought blooms to Oak Ridge, but the air remained thick with discord. Nikolai arrived at school to find his classroom door vandalized with slurs, the rainbow pin on his desk smashed. He cleaned it silently, but inside, doubt crept in. Was this worth it? Ethan arrived moments later, pulling him into a hug. "We'll get through this," he murmured. Their relationship had evolved into something profound, a partnership forged in adversity, where emotions ran deep and choices defined them. The social conflicts amplified. The local newspaper ran an op-ed. "Is Oak Ridge ready for change?" It debated Nikolai's presence, with quotes from parents decrying moral decay. Mr. Ellis organized a boycott, pulling kids from Nikolai's classes. Enrollment plummeted further, and Reynolds announced emergency measures. Program cuts, including arts and counseling, threatening Ethan's job. Nikolai watched in agony, knowing his fund could intervene, but revelation now felt like blackmail. Ethan's internal struggle intensified. Coming from a traditional family, he faced estrangement. His parents stopped calling after rumors reached them. "They think I've lost my way," he told Nikolai over dinner. Nikolai shared his own past, rejection from relatives after coming out. "We choose our family now," Nikolai said, their hands entwined. But choices had consequences. Ethan debated leaving town, but Nikolai's quiet strength held him. "If we run, they win." Controversial twists emerged. Sarah, inspired by Nikolai, came out as bisexual to her friends, sparking a mini-revolt. Jake and his crew targeted her, leading to a school fight. In the aftermath, Nikolai mediated, emphasizing empathy. "Hate comes from fear," he told Jake privately. The boy scoffed but seemed shaken. Meanwhile, Ethan counseled affected students, his own experiences lending authenticity. Their collaboration drew suspicion. Reynolds warned them about inappropriate alliances. One weekend, they escaped to Chicago, a brief respite. Walking hand in hand in Boys Town, Ethan felt free. "This is what life could be," he said. Nikolai smiled, but reality loomed. Back in Oak Ridge, a town hall meeting turned ugly. Protesters chanted outside, signs reading, "Protect our kids." Inside, Nikolai spoke passionately. "I'm not a threat. I'm a teacher who cares." Boos drowned him, but a few clapped, small victories. Ethan stood beside him, their solidarity noted. Emotions peaked when Ethan's ex confronted him publicly. "You're throwing away your life for him?" she yelled at a grocery store. Ethan, composed, replied, "I'm finally living it." The incident fueled gossip, pressuring their relationship. Nikolai questioned his secrecy about the fund. "Maybe it's time," Ethan suggested. Nikolai hesitated. Using it as a weapon contradicted his values. As summer neared, the school's fate hung in balance. Reynolds revealed at a staff meeting, "Without new funding, we close next year." Gasps filled the room. Nikolai's heart raced. He could save them, but at what cost to his integrity? That night, he and Ethan argued. "They don't deserve your help after what they've done," Ethan said. Nikolai countered, "It's not about deserving. It's about doing right." Their disagreement highlighted choices. Forgiveness versus justice. Reconciliation flickered. Jake approached Nikolai apologetically after a reflective essay assignment. "I didn't get it before," he admitted. Small shifts, but the majority resisted. A petition to fire Nikolai gained signatures, led by Mrs. Harlan. Ethan rallied supporters, organizing a countergroup for inclusivity. Their love became a quiet rebellion, emotions sustaining them through nights of worry. In a moment of vulnerability, Ethan proposed they go public. "Hiding is killing me." Nikolai agreed, but fear lingered. The decision loomed, intertwining their fates with the town's. As conflicts swirled, Nikolai pondered the fund's reveal. Not for revenge, but for truth. The climax built, choices defining legacies. Summer heat waves scorched Oak Ridge, mirroring the boiling tensions. Nikolai's classes dwindled to a handful of loyal students. The boycott effective. One sweltering afternoon, protesters gathered outside the school, chanting slurs. Nikolai watched from his window, Ethan by his side. "This has to end," Ethan said, his voice breaking. Their relationship, once a sanctuary, now felt besieged, emotions strained by constant vigilance. The controversies escalated to national news. A viral video of the protests painted Nikolai as a martyr, drawing supporters from afar. Donations trickled in, but not enough. Reynolds, desperate, begged alumni for help. Unaware the savior was in his midst, Nikolai wrestled with his conscience nightly. Revealing the fund could silence critics, but it risked tainting his altruism. Ethan urged caution. "Do it on your terms." Personal conflicts hit home. Nikolai's apartment was egged, forcing him to stay with Ethan temporarily. In the intimacy of shared space, their bond strengthened. Conversations about futures, dreams deferred. But Ethan's family disowned him formally in a letter. "Choose your path, but not with us." Tears flowed as Nikolai comforted him. "We'll build our own," Nikolai promised. Choices crystallized. Love over legacy. At school, a heated confrontation unfolded. Mr. Ellis stormed into Nikolai's classroom, accusing him of corrupting his son. "Jake's questioning everything now, because of you." Nikolai stood firm. "Questioning is learning." Ethan intervened, defending Nikolai, outing their relationship inadvertently. "We're together, and that's not changing." Gasps echoed. The secret was out. Reynolds summoned them, furious. This complicates everything. The backlash was swift. Petitions surged, calls for both their firings. Students divided. Some wore rainbow stickers in solidarity. Others boycotted counseling. Sarah organized a support rally, clashing with protesters. Amid chaos, Nikolai and Ethan found strength in unity. "No regrets," Ethan said, kissing Nikolai softly. Emotions surged. Fear, defiance, love. As the school board convened for a decisive vote, Nikolai prepared his statement. The funds board emailed. Another grant was due, but he could withhold it. Temptation gnawed. Let them suffer? No, that wasn't him. Ethan, sensing his turmoil, said, "Whatever you choose, I'm with you." Their relationship, tested by fire, emerged resilient. The meeting was packed, tensions electric. Speakers railed against Nikolai, citing traditional values. Then, supporters spoke. Sarah, tearfully, "Mr. Thompson taught me to be myself." Ethan added, "Diversity strengthens us." Nikolai took the podium last, heart pounding. "I've endured humiliation for being who I am, but I believe in this school." He paused, then revealed, 2 years ago, I anonymously funded the grant that saved Oak Ridge High." Silence fell, then uproar. Proof followed, documents emailed to the board. Shock rippled. The humiliated teacher was their benefactor. Reynolds stammered apologies. Ellis looked ashamed. But not all changed. Some accused manipulation. Nikolai clarified, "I didn't do it for power. I did it because education matters." The vote shifted. Nikolai retained his job with conditions. Emotions overflowed post-meeting. Ethan embraced him. "You did it." But victory was bittersweet. Scars remained. Jake approached hesitantly. "Sorry, Mr. T. Didn't know." Nikolai nodded. Knowing shouldn't matter. The town buzzed, divisions lingering. In the aftermath, Oak Ridge simmered with uneasy peace. Nikolai's revelation forced reckonings. Apologies trickled in, but resentment festered among diehards. Mrs. Harlan retired early, muttering about agendas. Reynolds offered a promotion, but Nikolai declined, preferring the classroom. His pin shone brighter, a symbol of hard-won acceptance. Ethan and Nikolai's relationship flourished openly now, though stares followed. They hosted a community dialogue, fostering understanding. Sarah thrived, starting an LGBTQ club. Jake joined reluctantly, his transformation gradual. But not all stories ended happily. Some families left town, unable to adapt. Nikolai reflected on choices. Secrecy versus truth, endurance versus escape. The fund continued support with transparency. Nikolai stepped back from management, focusing on teaching. Ethan proposed one crisp autumn evening. Under stars, "Marry me." Nikolai said yes, tears mingling with joy. Their wedding, small and local, drew mixed attendance. Progress, not perfection. Years passed. Oak Ridge evolved slowly. Nikolai and Ethan built a life, adopting a child, facing new challenges. The town learned, but old wounds scarred. Nikolai often wondered if his path was right. Is it true that revealing one's power in the face of humiliation always leads to genuine change? Or does it sometimes merely mask ongoing prejudice?